Hello, Stampers. Welcome to Handmade with Holly. My name is Holly Michelson, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I'm bringing you this video from Del Mar, New York, which is just outside of Albany, the capital of New York State. I'm excited tonight to do this demonstration and show you the Bookbinder fold. And this is an example of a card that we're going to make tonight. The one we'll make tonight is slightly different design, but the fun fold will be the same. This is called the Bookbinder fold because this portion of the card is permanently adhered to the card base, and it opens and closes with this square portion. And so this looks like a book binding. We're going to use the Snailed It stamp set tonight in order to make our fun fold card. Now, the Snailed It set is about to retire. So if you haven't already picked up this adorable set, you'll want to do so quickly. This stamp set will be retiring on June 30th when the January through June 2021 mini catalog retires. So do not hesitate. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd be more than happy to help you purchase this Snailed It stamp set or any of the supplies that we'll be using this evening. All right, let's go ahead and get started then. We're going to be making tonight's card base using Blushing Bride, which coordinates very nicely with the designer series paper. I've already pre-cut the 8.5 and 11 piece of cardstock down in half. So this now measures 11 inches wide by 4 1/4. And we're going to go ahead and put this in our trimmer so that we can score it twice. First, we're going to score it in the center, and that's going to create the fold here on the card. And then we're also going to score it here to create the book binding. So I'm going to put this in my trimmer and line it up at 5 1/2. And then making sure that I'm using the light blade or the scoring blade, I'm going to go ahead and run that over my card at 5 1/2. And I'm also going to put it back in, and I'm going to score it again at 4 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through a few times. And now hopefully you can see, I don't know how well you can see that, but our paper has been scored at 5 1/2 and 4 1/4. I just set the trimmer aside. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around so that our binding is on the left hand side. I'm going to go ahead and fold the card in half, and then I'm going to take my bone folder and run that along the edge to burnish the piece of cardstock, and that's just going to help the card stay closed and keep the card flat. And then I'm also going to take the card and fold it along that 4 1/4 inch scar. And again, I'm going to burnish it and run my bone folder across that seam so that that will have a nice fold when we want to open and close it. And that's really the base of the card. We're going to put together layers, and I've pre-cut some pieces of paper that I'm going to use to adorn the card. The designer series paper measures 4 inches by 4 inches. I also have another piece of designer series paper for the book binding that measures 1 inch by 4 inches. And I have a piece of white, basic white cardstock that we're going to put on the inside, and that also measures 4 by 4. So these two pieces of paper are the same size. And lastly, I have a die cut from the Stitch So Sweetly die set. So let me show you that die set. The Stitch So Sweetly dies are not retiring. These will be available after June 30th. This rectangle, and I don't know if you can see that, but it has some really nice detail around the edges. Not only does it have a scalloped edge, but it has this great stitching around the edge of the die that gives it some nice ornamentation. So those are the pieces that we're going to use to assemble our card tonight. Now, if we like, let's go ahead and start with the inside of the card. And on the inside of the card, I'm actually going to stamp the mushrooms. I have Memento ink, and I'm using the Memento ink because I intend to color in these mushrooms with my Stampin Blends. And so this ink is perfectly suited for that. I'm going to go ahead and place my mushrooms down in the corner. Great, got a good impression there. And I'm also going to go ahead and stamp my snail on the rectangle that was made from Stitch So Sweetly. This little snail is adorable. Great, got a nice impression there as well. And now we're going to go ahead and use our Stampin Blends to color in our two stamped images. So let's go ahead and maybe start off with our snail. I have Stampin Blends here. I have light and dark petal pink, and I'm going to use them to color in the body of the snail. What I like to do is start off with the light petal pink and color in the entire snail. A little quick. Love those little antennae that lead up to the eyes. Those are adorable. And then I'm going to switch to the dark petal pink, and I'm going to go ahead and add more color around the edges of the snail, and maybe a little bit around the mouth, just to kind of give it a two-tone effect, and maybe even come in and add a little bit more there under the eyes. So that was the petal pink on the body of our snail. And now let's go ahead and color in the snail shell. I'm going to make the snail shell yellow. So I'm going to use light and dark Daffodil Delight. Again, I'm going to start with the light Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to go over the entire snail shell. And then I'm going to take out the darker one. And this just adds a little depth of color, which creates some shading and makes the shell look more three-dimensional. And you can just play with that until you're happy with the snail shell. And next, I need to color in the male. I'm going to actually use Light Pool Party for this. That's going to create a light color on this piece of mail, yet still coordinate with the Bermuda Bay color that's in the Designer Series paper. And now I'm going to take my Dark Pool Party, and I'm just going to add a little bit of color around the edge of the envelope. And again, give it some dimensionality, like how that turned out. And then lastly, I want to color in my heart on the mail. So I'm going to use light real red. This case, I'm using the fine writing side of the marker. For most of the coloring, I actually used the brush side, but with the heart being so fine, I wanted to use that finer side of the marker. So I think this looks really adorable, but our snail looks a little bit like he's floating. So I think what I'm going to do is come back in and take the Dark Pool Party. This coordinates with the piece of mail, and I'm just going to lightly make some strokes to add a little color underneath the snail, kind of like a shadow. And so he doesn't look like he's just floating there. I like that. So I think my snail's pretty adorable. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the mushrooms. So the mushrooms, if you see the designer series paper, the mushrooms on the paper look like this. So I'm going to start with the light Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to color the majority of the mushroom. And I love using these Stampin' Blends. They're very forgiving. I can color very quickly and just move around the object of what I'm coloring. Now, I like that, but I want to add a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to bring in the dark Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to add a little bit of color underneath. Which helps, that really brings out the three-dimensionality of the mushroom. And then I'm also going to use that to color in the spots on this mushroom. Again, replicating what we see here in the designer series paper. Excellent. Okay, so let's go ahead and then color in this mushroom. We're going to use light Bermuda Bay to start off. And again, that picks up on the colors in the designer series paper from this suite. Okay. And now I'm going to take the dark Bermuda Bay and I'm going to come in and add a little bit more color. Again, working on that three-dimensionality. Okay, I think I like that. And now we're going to color in the greenery. Now we don't have the greenery here in the DSP, so nothing that we can exactly replicate, but I thought maybe I would use light shaded spruce and that this might be a nice color of green to coordinate with the other colors that we already have here on our project. I think that using the smaller tip might be a little easier. I love to color with my Stampin' Blends. I find this so incredibly relaxing. Fantastic. And then maybe just to pick up on what you see here in the DSP, the little wisps, I'm going to take my light pool party and maybe just make a few wisps here on that. Very cute. Love it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start to assemble our card. Now, I'm going to first take some green glue and adhere the bookbinder together. Getting near the end of the bottle of my green glue, time for a new one almost. And the reason why I'm using the green glue in here is that it will help it to stay permanently affixed. We don't want that to open up again. So I put the green glue just between the two score lines, and I'm going to go ahead and use my fingers to gently press that down and create the book binding seal. And that's going to press the glue in there. Okay. And now I have a really good idea of where I want to place this because I've already created that bookbinding seal so I can see the square. And I'm just going to fiddle with it until I have it so that I have a nice border around all 4 edges. And now we're going to go ahead and add our DSP. Okay. And again, we're going to use the square shape to eyeball a nice border on all 4 sides of our DSP. Now, next I'm going to attach the bookbinding piece of DSP. And this is also Blushing Bride, so it kind of blends in nicely with the back of my cardstock. And we're going to go ahead and center that within the bookbinding, left, right, top, and bottom. And now we have our adorable little snail. So we're going to take some Stampin' Dimensionals and we're going to put those on the back so that we can raise the impression of our snail a little bit higher up. I'm going to go ahead and put dimensionals in all 4 corners, and I'm going to put one in the center so that this image is well supported. That's especially important if you're going to mail a card and it's going to go through the postage machine. You want to make sure that you've got a good amount of coverage for your dimensionals. And now I'm just going to use my Take Your Pick tool to help peel the backing off those Stampin' Dimensionals. A little trash can right nearby that I'm popping these extra pieces of protectant in. And now we're going to go ahead and attach our snail. I'm going to try to again find a good center place for that. Perfect. And we're going to use the Snail Mail Twine combo. And let's go ahead and add some twine to our card. There we go, that's better. Go ahead and use my finger. And I'm going to take my snips and snip the twine. And now I'm going to go ahead and make a knot. So that gives us a little bit of ornamentation there on our binding. And I'm just going to trim off the extra a little bit right there and maybe a little bit right there. Okay, perfect. And now I have these adorable resin heart embellishments. These are also in the last chance sale while supplies last, or retiring on June 30th, just like the Snail Mail Twine. And these are also half off right now. So don't miss the chance to get a package of these. They are adorable. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Take Your Pick tool to figure out where I want to place that heart. And I think I'm going to add another one. I'm going to put that one maybe right here. So cute. Oh, look how adorable that is. What do you think? I think this came out delightfully. I'm very excited to send this to somebody and tell them they've got mail. And in fact, in this stamp set, there's even this cute little hello stamp, and I may come in and stamp hello right there for my mail. What do you think? Do you think it came out great? I think this Snailed It set is adorable and not to be missed. So be sure to pick it up. It also has a matching set of dies. I just ordered those. The dies are also 50% off and they're in the last chance sale, but they haven't arrived yet. So I'll be excited to work with those once they come. While we're looking at these snail cards, I'll bring back the original samples that I had in the beginning. I would just point out that on the first two, rather than using the Stitch So Sweetly dies, I used the layering circles dies. And so I used these two dies from the layering circles set in order to create the circle and the scalloped border around it on this. And for down here for the sentiment, I used a smaller one of the rectangles from the Stitch So Sweetly set. So there's some ideas there. Now, while we're looking at Bookbinder folds, let me go ahead and show you some other ones that I've made. This one features the pretty Perennials stamp set. This stamp set is retiring on June 30th. Or while supplies last. And again, you see the Bookbinder fold here. And I used the dies from the matching stamp set to cut out this flower. I also have some samples here from Turtle Friends. This is the Turtle Friends stamp set and some really adorable sentiments here. Happy belated birthday. Sorry I was slow. Ha ha ha. You are turtly loved. It's time to celebrate. And even a little stamp here for baby cards. So the Turtle Friends stamp set also has this coordinating punch. And these are 3 samples that I made. So this one is the happy belated birthday. And I paired it with the Evening Evergreen Designer Series paper, and also the soft succulent woven ribbon. And then here I use the Pale Papaya in color Designer Series paper. And again, the soft succulent ribbon. This Designer Series paper here is from a new pack of paper called Pattern Play that is only available to party hostess. So if you host a party from now until the end of the annual catalog next May, you can be eligible to earn this Designer Series paper. I just love it. It looks like turtle shells in the paper right there, doesn't it? And then I also made this baby card, Hello Little One, and I used the same Designer Series paper, but this time I put it on Evening Evergreen cardstock. So this one is Evening Evergreen, this one is Soft Succulent, and this one is Mint Macaron. And I thought the turtles were adorable, different ways I tied the bows or used the ribbon on the cards. Lots of fun ideas there for Bookbinder cards. And then lastly, I wanted to show you this adorable Bookbinder card. This one is from the Back on Your Feet stamp set, and I used this great turtle here to make this adorable card. It was very simple and easy to make, and I just did a step and repeat with the turtle in the background. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make a Bookbinder fold card and that you see how versatile this fun fold can be. I hope you'll give it a try. I will post the measurements for this card in the comments. So thank you very much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. That will help me build my following on YouTube. And if you would like to see future videos from me, please click the subscribe button so that you subscribe to my channel. And if you click on the yellow bell, you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for joining me to stamp tonight.